One of the questions I'm asked most frequently when people find out what I do for a living is, what do I do if I get pulled over after drinking? So let me answer that question once and for all. First of all, it's not illegal to have a drink of alcohol and then drive. It's only illegal if you're impaired to the point where you can't drive as a reasonable sober person, or if you're above the legal limit, which is 0.08. That said, if you do get pulled over and the officer smells alcohol, there's going to be a DUI investigation. And since there are significant liability issues that arise for the police, if they pull you over, do a roadside investigation, let you go, and then you get into an accident that wouldn't have happened had you been arrested, chances are good that if you've been drinking at all and you get stopped, that you will be arrested. So the question then becomes, do you want to get arrested and give them all the evidence they'd like to easily convict you, or do you want to exercise some of your rights, improve your odds, and give your lawyer something good to work with? Remember, having a right, like the right to remain silent, does you no good unless you choose to exercise it. So there's really two scenarios that come up. One, where someone's had one glass of wine or a beer, and another where someone gets pulled over and they really have the oh crap moment where they know this is going to end up badly. In the first scenario, where it's legitimately one drink, cooperation and candor may pay off, but with this caveat. Police may ask you to take a roadside handheld breath test called a PAS test, and that's an acronym for Preliminary Alcohol Screening Test. While this should be no problem for someone that's just had one drink, this machine has a real problem. It can't tell the difference between alcohol molecules that are coming from the deep lung air, which is what it's supposed to be measuring, and alcohol molecules that are coming from another source, like those that are trapped in the mouth due to recent drinking, eating and drinking at the same time, or something as simple as burping. Bottom line, if you're over 21 and you're not on probation for a DUI, that roadside test is optional and you should decline it. If this really is an oh crap moment, that same advice applies. Do not take that PAS test. Generally speaking, only people who are under 21 or who are on probation already for a DUI have an obligation to take the test. If that doesn't apply to you, then you should exercise your right not to. The other right to exercise is to decline the roadside agility and gymnastic exercises called field sobriety tests. When I hear the word test, I think of situations like tests in school, where everyone gets the material in advance, they get a chance to study and to practice, and then the test is administered in identical conditions that are fair to everybody concerned. Nothing could be further than that in the case of roadside gymnastics. Law enforcement is looking not for things that you do right, they're looking for things that you do wrong, and it's all for the purpose of your being convicted. And even though no one will tell you this, the only reason you're doing the tests is because you're consenting to do them. So the better practice is to politely decline to do them. Be polite, but decline. The same holds true for any questions that you're asked, such as where you're coming from, where you're going, what you ate, what you drank, when you drank it, how much you slept, and so on. First of all, talking to law enforcement at all puts you in the position where they could say you said anything they want, and it becomes your word against theirs if you dispute it. And they also tend to say that you had slurred speech, which they always do, even though they have no idea what your voice sounds like. So the best practice is to politely decline to answer any questions and instead assert your right to have a lawyer present. Now, you may be asking, as many people do, but if I don't talk to them and I don't do the field sobriety tests and I don't do the roadside PAS test, won't they arrest me? Well, yes, they probably will. But spoiler alert, they were going to arrest you anyway. Do you want to get arrested and give them what they want to convict you? Or do you want to exercise your rights? After you get arrested for a DUI in California, you are required to submit to a chemical test of your blood or breath to determine alcohol content. If you refuse to do so after being properly told of this obligation and the consequences for refusing, you can lose your license for 1 year on a first offense or longer if it's a multiple offense. After you're arrested, you have a choice of either a breath or a blood test. Now, there's more than 50 reasons why both breath and blood tests can be wrong, and we have great attacks on both of them. So, here are your 3 main takeaways. Number 1, exercise your right to remain silent and no talking to police. Number 2, do not do the roadside field sobriety tests. Number 3, do not do the pre-arrest screening test unless you're legally obligated to do so. This is going to give your legal team the best chance to fight for you. If you've been charged with a DUI, we know you're going through a tough time, and all this can be very confusing. On behalf of everyone at the Kavinoky Law Firm, we hope this helps.